our stand-up special.
Come on, you're so far in the closet you're having adventures in Narnia.
People have been ripping this off for years. Here it is posted in 2009, with many of the comments remarking that it's old and stolen even then, and this was almost half a decade before Newt stole it. Here's an in-character Tyrion Lannister Twitter account reusing it a few months before the roast in 2013. I haven't seen the show or read the books, so I'm just gonna assume they read Narnia there too.
I don't know where the dragon
correct me.
went.
While I was researching this topic, I found a Reddit post collecting all the places he stole from for this roast. Obviously there were a bunch. When I found this, I was worried people would think I'd just got this from here. I assure you I do my own research and don't just read Reddit posts. As proof, they haven't found the source for the Narnia one, so don't I feel special? Unless Jimmy Carr got it from somewhere else too. He's already stealing from the British taxpayer, so I wouldn't be surprised. Newt had just been very sloppily taking shit for over a decade. The guy was fired, and from the sounds of things, everyone's bitter about it, especially the guys who had to make new Monster Madness videos to an insanely short deadline.
And then we have to rewrite 20-something scripts and re-edit them in a week.
Even James Rolfe himself got involved. He quite famously avoids talking about controversial stuff, like 9/11, but there was enough confusion he saw fit to descend from his throne of gold and put up an unlisted video explaining what happened.
One of our writers had somehow added a portion that was taken from a pre-existing article. That's unacceptable, and all of us here apologize for letting that sneak in.
He went with the story Justin did. Some new guy pasted something wrong and confused his notes into the script.
The short story is somebody fucked up. Somebody knew.
I'm not sure if this was recorded before this turned out to be a lie, or if they just decided they didn't need to explain it to the public in detail. And that's understandable, but either way, it wasn't somebody new. It was somebody Newt. That's your joke for this video. Doing research, I found an interview with Newt about a low-budget horror film he wrote. However, the picture they used was Philip Mewson. I have no idea how this happened, but it's very funny. For the creative people watching, there's a kind of positive lesson here. You might be mystified why someone would copy stuff for a review. Why is it so hard to just write your opinions on something? But it turns out writing a good review is really difficult. For example, I use the phrase "it turns out" more than once every video by accident because I'm bad at it. I'm not even joking, I've written "it turns out" in the next section without realizing it. That's how fucking bad I am. Being able to write a good review is a unique and difficult skill. Creative people often have trouble recognizing their skills as skills because eventually they feel like second nature, and they don't feel real and practical like building a house or doming. But it turns in that this stuff actually is valuable. If it wasn't, people wouldn't be stealing. Creativity doesn't feel super special or unique until you realize people have to plagiarize it. I accidentally bought this in size twink instead of bear. Oh, would you like some talcum powder with that, sir? No, it's fine. I could wring the sweat out from that and probably sell it. It's worth noting that even when the plagiarism was cleared up, the new videos are still weird. The entire appeal of Monster Madness was it was one guy passionately sharing his opinions. If someone else wrote those opinions, even if they're not stolen, what exactly is the point? James put this better himself a few years back before this all began.
I want to make original films. Lots of people say, well, get somebody to help. Well, I can't get somebody else to write the review for me. It's an opinionated thing. Imagine if it was somebody else's words and they say, this movie's great, and then I think, oh, well, this movie sucks. So if I'm doing the review, obviously I have to see the movie and write the script. It's all me.
This is probably why he made a statement about this. Most people watching would have assumed James wrote the words he was saying, especially since he'd been so vocal about this before. This is an insidious side effect of plagiarism in larger operations. It implicates the person reading the script, not just its writer. But here the plagiarism is just a symptom of the direction Cinemassacre's videos have taken. The unstolen ones are almost as strange as the stolen ones, in the ways James once predicted. You can only hand off so much of your work before it stops being yours. It feels weird to say this about videos where a guy calls a game from 1992 a fuckstick, but the magic is gone. These aren't videos anymore, they're products. Late Stage Cinemassacre is so low effort, the scripts have obvious grammatical
I've been
errors,
watching
and James
Cinemassacre
reads them
just
without
today.
even bothering to change them.
And it's with these survivors that Jim will struggle to stay alive with.
These videos used to come from a place of interest and care, to entertain or share something. Now they're made by a production line for only one reason.
ExpressVPN.com/cinemassive.
Internet video as a business is at odds with internet video as a medium. Dare I say, an art form. Put the gun down. The increased industrialization of videos doesn't necessarily make the videos better, just easier to make. But if you want to make as much money as possible in the short term, you cut those corners and you make as much product as possible. This gives me a chance to respond to the most common question about plagiarism on the internet, which is, why should we care? Does it really matter in the grand scheme if a review of Octopath Traveler or 28 Days Later is stolen?
Yes.
If you think that,
Yes,
you
it
should
does.
try extruding that logic a bit further until it reaches the pain receptors of your brain. Internet video isn't a silly playground where teens pretend to be scared of horror games anymore. It's a business. There is real money to be made in this space, or so the emails from the World of Tanks guys keep telling me. So it's definitely worth interrogating the fact people's work is being exploited in these money-making endeavors. This issue will become relevant later, and by later, I mean now. If you want to maximize your profits by making a video every other day, how do you write that much material? You don't! Part Illuminati. It's a pun. I don't need to impress you. In 2021, when I was working on the vaccines and autism video, I needed something to listen to in the background while I built an Argos bookshelf, so out of curiosity, I put on other videos on the topic. One of them was by a channel called Illuminati, whose real name is Blair Zon. I hadn't heard of her before. She seems to do videos covering multi-level marketing schemes, pyramid schemes, and failed businesses, stuff like that.
She's
and
good.
she seems to make a lot of them really quickly. I wonder how. The video was fine? My phone was several meters away and I couldn't be bothered to reach out and get it and change the playlist, so it just kept going through her anti-vax videos. And at one point, I did a double take.
There was a joint inventor on these products, a man named Hugh Fudenberg, a former immunologist who has been long controversial. In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit with the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic patients with blood products.
I remember pausing, budget B&Q hammer in hand, and thinking, haven't I heard this exact sentence before?
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit involving the Food and Drug Administration, which told him he had to stop injecting his autistic child patients with blood products.
An interesting thing about the MMR scandal is literally all of its big discoveries can be attributed to the work of one man, Brian Deere, whose years of diligent journalism are basically why we know what we do about Andrew Wakefield. His 2004 documentary, MMR, What They Didn't Tell You, effectively berserk eclipsed Wakefield's career as a legitimate doctor. It's great, and Brian uploaded it to his own YouTube channel for free in 2014, so anyone can go watch it. This version has the time code burned in at the bottom, which is kind of cute, but if you wanted to make your own video about the subject and use that as source footage, that's kind of annoying to look at. So I spent like 2 full days of my life trying to find a version without the time code, and I finally found what I think is a copy of the original broadcast from 2004. Harrowing stories of child abuse do not pair well with teasers for the TV premiere of Moulin Rouge.
When Dr. Wakefield launched the MMR scare back in 1998,
I used footage from Deere's documentary in my video, explained how important it was, thanked Brian for all of his hard work, and even recommended his book on the subject that had just come out. And he actually emailed my producer, Kat, with metrics showing people actually did go out and buy the book after seeing my video, which is great. I love knowing that my audience actually reads books. Thank you so much. So, the reason the Illuminati video sounded so familiar was because I had just rewatched that documentary.
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine
and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse and misprescribing of controlled drugs.
and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse of prescribing controlled drugs.
Professor Fudenberg has long been controversial.
Hugh Fudenberg, a former immunologist who
Now-
has been a long
This, I consider her actually just citing a source and like verbatim word verbatim. And I don't know if that's so bad. Now, what's going on there? Why did that happen? That's weird looking. What was that about? Fucking weird. Why bother if the fucking lever's right there? What the fuck is that? Can't see my mouse. Can't see my mouse.
Controversial.
Been long controversial? So, this is weird. She wasn't quoting Deer. She was saying his words out loud as if she wrote them. So, what's happening here? Well, after the bookcase seemed to stand up on its own, despite all the pieces mysteriously left over, I watched the video properly and noticed she does acknowledge Brian Deer and the documentary pretty openly.
In 2004, Brian Deer came out with a documentary entitled MMR What They Didn't Tell You.
Blair watched a documentary and then downloaded it and used it to make her own. In the first 20 minutes, she plays a chunk of the documentary, or just quotes it, 25 times. More than once a minute, you're hearing something Brian Deer said from his mouth or hers. So this video is lazy? I'm personally insulted that she just used the version of the documentary from Deer's YouTube channel with the timecode burned in. That gets to me a little bit after the effort I put in, but that doesn't make it plagiarism. It's just not very good. And hey, it's not like this is her one source. She quotes a lot of other places too. Or does? Here's some of the times she quotes someone else in the video. Wow, look at all this research she must have done. One thing though, what's the source for these quotes? Okay, we need to talk about how to cite a source for a second. If you watch any non-Illuminati video essay, you'll see these pretentious little commies put some text in the corner telling you where their quote comes from. This is so you know what they're quoting, so you can check it or go find it and learn more if you want, and to give proper credit to the people whose ideas or knowledge they're borrowing. If you're using someone else's words in a video you intend to make money off, it's very important to give proper credit and attribution. Listing where the quote is from is important, not just so it's easy for people to find and verify it, but it's useful context which helps people interpret what they're seeing. If someone showed you a quote that made a person look bad, you might feel a bit cheated if they didn't mention its source is a blog by someone you've never heard of that doesn't exist anymore. I have a little rule for quoting that other creators seem to use as well. If someone saw a clip of your video out of context, would it be possible for them to tell you're quoting someone and where it's from? Blair, for some reason, doesn't cite her sources. Here's a part where she quotes Andrew Wakefield.
Wakefield also stated, mumps, measles, and rubella together might be too much for the immune system of some children to handle.
I love there's a tiny Andy there for some reason, but not saying where he said this is pretty bad citation. But this isn't a mistake. Blair is hiding the source on purpose for a reason. You see, this quote is from the same documentary again. Brian Deer plays a clip of Wakefield saying it at a conference.
Measles, mumps and rubella given together may be too much for the immune system of some children to handle.
Why didn't she just play the clip? She had it downloaded. Well, because she's already played so many clips from this documentary, it looks ridiculous. So she started quoting it, and just not telling you she's quoting the one thing she watched. I wonder where all the other quotes come from.
And more still, nurses were leaving, saying they don't like what's being done.
Nurses were leaving and saying they didn't like what was being done to these children.
It needed 3 people to hold these kids down
in some cases, just to have blood taken. I feel very sorry for the children who I feel were being abused.
This study had, in fact, begun with a contract from a group of solicitors
Who were trying to sue MMR manufacturers.
Chadwick said he had hoped the ordeal when it hit the news.
Yeah, but I mean, all this really is, but see, he was doing I mean, I guess she is kind of like, but she, okay. There's a very big difference between the paid documentary and the book and the stuff that that guy wrote and the YouTube video that she's trying to make to educate the younger generations. There's a big, big difference. At that point, I don't really see the difference between her. I guess she makes a lot of money off of it, I guess. That's the difference. But I don't really see the difference between her and a school teacher who puts a television up in front of the school kids and plays a documentary. I don't really see how now she plagiarized him, but honestly, I don't know how her citing him pretty much verbatim is actually that bad. That's kind of like some of the better citing of a source I've heard in a while. You'd be surprised how often they're like, I cited a source, and they're just like straight up making up whatever they're talking about. And when you go back at like what the person verbatim said is a lot different than what they're saying. But she got it like pretty much like exactly what he said. And I don't know if that's actually that slipshod or I mean, she makes a lot of money doing it. But I mean, she's providing a service, and if she's gonna relate the information, at least, and I've seen this before. I've seen this before in a lot of YouTubers. They'll quote some documentary or some inside thing that I've seen about video games, and I'm like, oh, this person's very knowledgeable about what they're talking about. But they'll quote it like it's theirs, but they'll say it like they said it, like they made it, like they designed it or wrote it. And I've seen this before, and yeah. I think humans are likely to try to take credit for things that they didn't write. Yeah. But I don't see how this is that harmful. When I think of YouTube, I think it's harmful to the people that they're plagiarizing, which is unfortunate. I don't know, but she is kind of just citing him, sort of. My real issue with it is it's like if she's just directly citing him, I don't have that much of an issue with it, but it's like if she's making a lot of money off of it, that's one thing. But if she was just putting YouTube videos on YouTube trying to educate people, it'd be another. And I think his actual gripe is she makes a lot of money with other people's work. And that's a valid complaint, but I think she provides a service in return. That documentary she quoted about MMO or whatever the fuck, like anti-vaxxing stuff, it might be readily available on YouTube. It probably is, but it might be hard to track down. Her regurgitating the information is pretty much what, in my experience, YouTube is. Is some dude essentially reading the wiki. It sucks, or some person, like, you know, but it's some person reading a wiki. That's generally, to me, what YouTube is. Or they're like, sometimes it's DIY and they're like showing you how to do something, or they're telling you how to do something. You know, or they're like showing you an example, or they're entertaining you. But like a lot of the time, I think it's basically them reading off a wiki. It's like really weird. When later on, after I had seen all of Frederick Knutson's work, I went through a lot of those videos, and I went back and I like YouTubed all the stuff that he talked about and looked at further videos about this stuff. And I began to realize that he was just essentially like regurgitating what they say. But I think that's kind of what being a YouTube star is a bit. Not a star, but like a serious content provider trying to drop this like this actual edutainment stuff. Like, I think that's all it really is copying people. It's kind of crazy. You're always just trying to share information, sort of.
Die its own death.
own death. It includes injecting mice with measles virus.
He injected mice with measles.
Yeah, like, as I recall, and I might be wrong about this, but I think the cure, like when Jonas Salk found the cure for polio, I believe it was the mumps virus, as I recall. And so, believe it or not, when they killed polio, they infected the entire world with the mumps virus, as I recall. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but that's what I remember. Let's go see. What was the cure for polio, right? It's an inactivated polio vaccine. It's Salk's vaccine. IPV, meaning it uses a polio virus that is not alive. Yeah, so it's like an inactivated polio vaccine. So what he did is he essentially took the polio. He killed the polio virus by giving the entire world the polio virus. Polio's nasty because you get paralysis. Yeah, it's fucked up. There's no cure for it, but you can vaccinate against it. And all it was he gave children polio and they were fine. They didn't get sick. So like that's and that's and that sucks, but I mean that it's kind of funny. I always heard it was the mumps. It was like some inactivated mumps virus, but I guess it is actually it's like or maybe it is the way they say it is it's like but yeah yeah what yep yeah and then yep, Sabin's vaccine is the name of it. And yep, the polio vaccine. And IPV was the name of it. He tested his own family. And then yep, and yeah, because you patent the sun? There's no patent. Yeah, there's no patent. He didn't want a patent on it. He thought that was ridiculous. Why? So they could like sell it and say they own it? No. He wanted everybody to have that. He was like, the cure is polio. The cure for polio is polio. And that's fucked up. Like, that they needed to worry about the copyright of the fucking vaccines so badly. Fucking ghouls and goblins. I swear to God, half the humans out there. Total ghoul, criminal goblins. What's a Goomba to a goblin?
And injected the stuff into pregnant goats.
This is amazing. She just quotes people from this one document.
She quotes them, and that's what YouTube kind of is. It's like a regurgitation of information. Very seldom do I ever see anything new on YouTube. It's all stuff I've been hearing on like cable television all my life and shit. It's all stuff I've heard before, most of it. It's kind of crazy. Some of it's new. But like, most of the really good information on YouTube, you could probably find on the History Channel too. It's kind of interesting.
Pretends she did any work. Eventually, she stops bothering to even make it look like a quote and just starts saying Brian Deer's words out loud.
Yep.
And that's how the stuff at the beginning happened. She got so lazy.
But I mean, at least she's going to research it, finding the dude, quoting him, and trying to get the information in people's heads. I don't know if you could be so hateful about it. She makes a lot of money doing it, yeah. More money than she probably should make for just stealing someone's work like that. But I don't know, man. What she's doing remarkably sounds to me like work. Sounds like work. She's just reshaping and regurgitating information for the younger generations. I think it's work. It sucks. It's plagiarism. But I mean, information has to be passed down somehow.
Bothering to pretend she wasn't copying the documentary.
In 1989, he was caught up in a bizarre lawsuit involving the Food and Drug Administration, which told him...
So it's so weird. Like, it's weird because this seems like plagiarism because she's like directly verbatim quoting him, which means that she sat there with like a pen and paper, or I mean not pen and paper, but like a laptop, as she wrote every word that he said, and then wrote it into her script. And it is actually really inane, fucked up plagiarism. in a way, because it's like the amount of work that she had to do to make it possible is plagiarism. Like, it's intentional plagiarism. She could have narrowed it down and made this a lot easier and faster too. It's weird. She didn't want to narrow it down. She just straight up like plagiarized his ass, because it's probably easier to just copy what he's saying and then just rewrite it. Like, not just rewrite it, but just put it in your video. It's probably a lot easier to just copy what he's saying and then recite it in your video than it is to boil it down. It's probably easier to just do it verbatim, you know? So they don't even take the time to edit or rewrite or anything, or even like really like wax intellectual about it at all. They just straight up verbatim copy it. So in a way, their professionalism turns into lazy. Lazy turns into plagiarism. Plagiarism turns into like lawsuits and stuff. I think it's kind of crazy, but most times I don't think most people sue successfully for plagiarism, is what he was saying. So yeah, this is particularly nasty, but also I think all of YouTube is like this. It's sort of like we can't target, we can't play Where's Waldo with this lady and target her without like essentially going after everybody who's ever done this before. She's not doing anything that any creator hasn't done before, pretty much. Look at me. I'm putting their video on my channel to try and at least make WoW fishing a little bit more fucking interesting, you know? A little bit less boring. Because WoW fishing is boring, you know?
Then in 1995, he was suspended from practicing medicine and made to pay a $10,000 fine for his misuse of prescribing controlled drugs.
MMR, what they didn't tell you, has been chewed up and spat back into your mouth like you're a little baby bird. My favorite
What's wrong with that? Like, but that's what knowledge is. That's what being a teacher is. Honestly, I kind of respect how close to the source material she stayed, because like when they're not doing plagiarism, they just sum it all up kind of dumbly and with bad grammar and all that, and in a kind of like Tierson sort of like not very in depth. So I mean, I'd rather she just straight up quoted him than try to spew it down to something like smaller, you know? I think it's more respectful to the source code.
He's saying appears in quotes for some
Best
reason.
deals in all of
attributed
Stormwind,
to
my friend.
lawsuit
Won't
with
find
FDA.
any better. Now, what can I help you with?
No, Brian Deere said that.
He established a scientific system that would satisfy Wakefield and Pounder for testing.
And Pounder? Wait a second, who's Pounder? This Pounder guy never comes up again in the video. She brings him up here by mistake because she's paraphrasing another section of the documentary.
He established a scientifically valid system that would satisfy Dr. Wakefield and his head of department, Professor Roy Pounder.
Roy Pounder is an important character in the story. Blair has cut him out completely to save time, but she accidentally kept this one reference. This makes the copying kind of blatant. She's referencing a guy who exists in the documentary and not her video. Obviously, stealing someone else's words is plagiarism, but on a more zoomed out level, so is copying an entire documentary and trying to hide it. Like, obviously there's something wrong here. Here's a hint. If you're trying to trick people into thinking you're not quoting the thing you're quoting, you're probably doing plagiarism. But here's where it gets interesting.
Yep.
Blair knows people might notice this, so she's come up
She doesn't
with
care.
a defense mechanism. The video has a link in the description to a list of sources, where stuff she quoted or showed in the video gets linked.
Which is how every college paper is, and every, like, you know... I mean, honestly, like you seem to have an issue with the foundations of literature, but this is how it works. She cites the sources. She can say exactly what they said. That, I mean, plagiarism is when you don't cite the source and you act like you wrote it. That's not what she did. She cited the source, and she did not act like she wrote it. You know, I think you're targeting her for no reason.
Although usually they cite them when they use them in the actual video, but still. It's an unlabeled collection of links that's difficult to sort through, but if you keep digging, eventually you find a link to Brian Deere's YouTube upload of the documentary.
Yeah,
so
what's
now
wrong
if
with that?
anyone criticizes the fact she ripped it off...
Yeah, she, you know, which is what you did. They see that she cited the source, and I mean, I don't understand what else she's supposed to do. I guess she could regurgitate the information in a way where she puts her own spin on it, and it would be better, yeah, if she did that. But honestly, she's essentially writing a college paper and citing her source. I don't really see the issue with it. I
Of
fall
course
on
cited
her
it. Check,
side.
It's in my list.
Yeah.
Somewhere, and she uses
Yep.
this flimsy excuse to basically steal anything she wants. Blair frequently
Why not?
plagiarizes
That's what
never
college
mentions they
is.
exist in the video or cites them anywhere, but she puts a link in a list no one will read. So that makes it okay, right? The video we've been talking about so far is the second in a series of 3 about Andrew Wakefield. Here's part of the first one where she talks about his early career.
He became a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in
That must be a good series, huh?
1985, and a year later was awarded a Wellcome Trust Traveling Fellowship to study small intestine transplantation in Toronto, Canada.
Let me ask you real quick. Is she quoting a source right now? I mean, no, it's just stock footage, so clearly she wrote this part, right?
No.
No, she's just reading an article from the Telegraph.
He became a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons in 1985, and a year later was awarded a Wellcome Trust Traveling Fellowship to study small intestine
I
transplantation
mean,
in Toronto,
this
Canada.
is what a teacher edutainer is. This is what they do. They regurgitate info in a way that entertains you. And honestly, I like her approach a lot more than some dude just telling me what he thinks, frankly. I'd rather she just drop what the source said than actually even, like, frankly rewrite it. Really, I don't know. I think you're finding fault where the actual foundation should be, which is citing the sources directly. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, she makes a lot of money doing it, but I mean, is she wrong to do so? No.
Where he began to devote more time to research.
Oh no, there's more.
Joining the Royal Free Hospital in London, he worked on the liver transplant program and in 1996 began researching bowel disorders, autism, and the MMR vaccine.
What a
the
weird
average person
set
watching
of...
this is being led to believe Blair wrote the words she is saying here. This is called plagiarism. The audience has no way of knowing she's actually reading them the fucking newspaper. But the article she plagiarized
What's wrong with that?
Sources.
Nothing
So
wrong with
we
that.
already know what the excuse.
I wouldn't do what she does because it's biter and it's, unoriginal and frankly boring. But it's accurate, probably startlingly more accurate than a lot of people out there, and I actually like accuracy. I'd rather she just dump the source's words directly in a nice accessible video with word for word exactly what the source has said than her giving me some spin or some kind of view or some kind of regurgitation that gets the details messed up or isn't declared directly and isn't just citing the source. I actually like her style more than your average style on YouTube, kind of.
It wasn't plagiarism. She was just quoting a source.
She was quoting somebody.
Without telling you. I'm imagining an
Well,
alternate
but
universe.
she does, though. Down at the bottom, she cites the sources. That is telling you. She doesn't have to say it verbally in the video necessarily, I don't think. Are you having an issue that she didn't vocally say, I have only used sources, I have not rewritten any of this, and it's all cited down there in the comments? I guess, does she really need to say that? No, in the comments section, she can just cite the sources, and I think it's essentially legally fine. I mean... I don't think most editors in the world would have an issue with what she's doing, I'll be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom, guys. I'm sorry.
Link at the bottom, which goes to all the stuff they
I
stole.
need to get out of the water.
Like as if that would make it okay. This is just plagiarism, but with a shitty excuse in her back pocket to create plausible deniability. The intent behind this is pretty clear. Illuminati videos are like 90% quotes by volume. The part where she plagiarizes the Telegraph is in a 5-minute sequence mostly consisting of quotes from other places.
More research groups with more sophisticated techniques failed to confirm Wakefield's findings. Wakefield was actually born into a family of doctors in 1957. His mother was... This data led us to postulate that there may be a role for measles infection and Crohn's disease, even if at present this role remains unclear. Play, research studies, however, and
Seriously, huge chunks of the video are just reading entire screenfalls of text from the BBC, various papers, Slate, The Telegraph, and Brian Deere. Yeah, she actually quotes Brian Deere in this one. Wow! But this makes the videos boring. She's just reading pages of quotes at you. So to break up the screens of text and make it feel more original, sometimes she doesn't tell you she's reading someone else's words. She's doing plagiarism out of embarrassment to make the videos less boring. When I think a video is being lazy, I do a little test. I check what sources the video used, thankfully Blair provided a list, and I compare it with the sources you would get if you went to the Wikipedia page for the topic. All of the quotes in that 5-minute sequence I mentioned, including the Telegraph article she plagiarized, are just linked on Wakefield's Wikipedia page. Oh, I know how this video was researched. This is a really common trick with lazy creators. Go on Wikipedia and quote all of their sources, and then it looks like you did a bunch of research and work. And to make it even better, she pretends she had to look for this stuff.
Other studies have suggested there may be a link to Crohn's and measles, just not Wakefield. I was able to find a different study from the National Library of Medicine that's more recent.
I was able to find? I mean, I guess I'm glad you were. One of the lights went off, hold on a second. I'm not sure everyone is fully convinced that quoting a documentary for 30 minutes while pretending you're quoting someone else counts as plagiarism. I mean, it's a bit weird, but she cited it as a source, so technically it's fine. I see you little pedant. You think you're so fucking clever, don't you? But the fact she's trying to pass off other documentaries' work as her own is obvious when you realise if you didn't know the source material, you would have no idea she was doing this. To test this theory, I decided to watch a video of hers on a subject I knew next to nothing about, the Fire Festival, which I've really not looked into before.
It was no isolated island, but an underdeveloped lot just north of a sandals resort.
At first glance, the video is surprisingly well researched, with plenty of backstory and explanations.
According to Marianne Roll, a local that owns an Exuma Point restaurant, they had every living soul on the island of Exuma who could lift a towel working.
Lots of it is just quotes,
Lift
of
a
course,
towel.
she's still just quoting people mostly, but the fact there's
Lift a
so many
towel.
quotes makes it feel well-researched and credible.
One of these people was Keith.
If you can lift a towel, you're working for white people.
Bahamas.
Oh,
According
God.
to Keith, Billy's team really wanted to do
And, once or twice, Blair brings up one of the documentaries about the Fire Festival and mentions something that happens in them.
Later, in a documentary around the event, Billy himself claims that they had rented 250 houses.
She makes it very clear what the source for that section is. This all seemed very above board. And at the end, Blair says those 2 documentaries were some of the sources she used for her video.
I used both the Hulu and Netflix documentaries as sources for this episode, as well as various articles.
I think it's fair to say an average person would think they were watching an original work with lots of research and sources, which tastefully brings up 2 documentaries when necessary. And that's what I thought too, and I thought that was fine. It was a pretty well put together video. But then I watched Fire, the Netflix documentary about the Fire Festival.
And what I realized was that they had rented an area north of Sandals Resort.
It was no isolated island, but an underdeveloped lot just north of a sandals resort.
And then effectively photoshopped out the bottom portion of the map to make it look like they were on a deserted island.
They were photoshopping out the rest of the island to make it appear as if Fire K was a deserted island dedicated to the event. According to Marianne Roll, a local that owns an Exuma Point restaurant, they had every living soul on the island of Exuma who could lift a towel working.
Lift a towel.
They had every living soul on the island of Exuma who could lift a towel working.
According to Keith, Billy's team really wanted to do tents, so what I did is I took
my wife and we tried to sleep in a tent for one night, and it was so terrible.
Her Fire Festival video is mostly her reading words from the Fire Festival documentary on Netflix, set to footage she
Why
got
not?
from the Fire Festival documentary on...
I see them doing this all the time. They watch Netflix and they're extremely moved by an actual professional documentary, like the Murdaugh case kind of thing. And they're, or say making a murder or that Fire Festival thing. And so then the next day they go to work and they plagiarize and they just quote the documentary they watched.
Footage taken from the Fire Festival documentary that's on Hulu. But don't worry, her first source in her list is the Netflix documentary, so that makes it okay, right? And then further down in the list is the Hulu one. Although fucking hilariously, she doesn't link it on Hulu, she links it on 123films.cc, the piracy website she watched it on.
Wow.
Now this is journalism! Yeehaw!
Calvin claims he then went to the Bahamas for himself to see what was going on and discovered that the luxury festival tents were nothing more than leftover emergency relief tents from Hurricane Matthew.
Apparently this part is from Calvin Wells. No, it's from...
She shouldn't have linked 123 Films. I bet YouTube could actually ban her for that. Could actually demonetize her. And I can't believe he pointed it out, because if I'm a YouTube executive and I watch this video and I see that she, you know, that she fucking like linked a fucking like a torrent website on her video, I would demonetize her.
From the same documentary she got everything else from.
One of the things that really struck out to me,
Like in the comments, I think there's one thing about, like, you know, watching it or whatever. It's another thing to put in your comment a link to a torrent website. I think that's actually really dangerous. Steering somebody to 123 movies from your fucking YouTube link is, like, especially kids, is actually really dangerous. And I think she should actually face some kind of fucking, like, discipline over that. Like, like a temporary ban. They should temporary ban her for like a week and demonetize her for a week, because, like, freely linking stuff like that steers your people, like, to bad websites like that. I'm not saying 123 Movies is bad or whatever. That's cool. Good website, whatever. I'm talking about what could happen if somebody spoofed the website, the link that she links, and they click the link she cited and they go to this pirated website, but it's spoofed, and then that person is harmed because of the you know, the false area that they went to. She steered them somewhere really irresponsible.
was that they were erecting these dome tents that were pitched as luxury villas that I realized were leftover hurricane tents from Hurricane Matthew.
The footage playing while she is saying this is the same footage the documentary is showing as Calvin says it. She's just replaced the documentary's voiceover with herself quoting the documentary. It's ridiculous. Quoting documentaries you pirated for 30 minutes while pretending you're just quoting specific individuals is plagiarism. To give an example of how to do these quotes correctly, here's a New Republic article that quotes one of the things Blair did. As one caterer puts it in Netflix's file. It's clear and to the point. The article isn't trying to look like it found this quote. Blair could have said, in the Netflix documentary, this person says this, but she'd have to say that 50 fucking times, and it would make it obvious she's just remembering Netflix at you. So she deliberately obscures the actual source of her quotes.
Yep, and therein lies
YouTube.
YouTube.
Casual audience, she found these herself by doing actual research and reading articles and interviews with these people, which she didn't. This is passing off the work that went into making the documentary as her own. When she brings up the other documentaries as if she's only just talking about them, this is a lie to make you think she hasn't been doing it the whole time.
According to Mark Weinstein, a festival consultant,
a metric shit ton, actually slightly more, an imperial shit ton of this video is just footage from the Netflix documentary. Seriously, you can't even fucking take your own screenshot of these articles? What the fuck? This isn't even plagiarism, this is genuinely just copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Like, the copyright holder could get this video taken down easily, and maybe even take her to court for the ad revenue she got from their footage. You know YouTube's copyright system, where if you use 5 seconds of the wrong TV show, your video is demonetized? You're probably wondering why that didn't happen here. This is what the Content ID system actually exists to stop, after all. Well, this is why the video has all these ugly filters. What Blair is doing is so obviously stealing that YouTube would notice, so she had to put bisexual lighting over all the footage she got from the documentary. Whoever's making these videos is fully aware what they're doing is unacceptable and is purposefully working around the systems designed to stop them doing it. Blair doesn't just reuse other people's footage without credit though, the video has also been edited to hide the credit that was there. The Fire documentary itself used videos posted on Instagram and Twitter by people who attended the event, and guess what? It credits them. Their social media's in the corner. Blair's video steals this footage from the documentary too and puts a filter over it, but also blurs out the social media. She uses a few clips from a Vice video as well, and the Vice logo gets blurred out so you can't tell where it's from. Since Blair's making a documentary out of other people's documentaries without permission for money, she's trying to hide the evidence of whose footage she's using so they don't notice and serve her a fucking cease and desist. Incidentally, when the Vice video uses footage from the documentary, it tells you, because this is how this shit is supposed to work. At one point she uses a clip of a news piece about the festival, which used footage from the documentary, and you'll notice they also correctly credit the footage too. Blair's sources are full of examples of how to credit the source. But if she'd done the same thing, the word Netflix would just be in the corner for 30 minutes. The video's opening features this fan art, depicting her bro-fisting with a person I believe she recently sent a cease and desist to. Put this on r/aged like milk. This piece of fan art is better attributed than the documentary she stole this video from. The 25 minutes of clips and quotes from Netflix don't get this treatment. She just says, "Oh, I used these documentaries as research" at the end. And I guess she's not lying. She definitely did. I wish there was room in the video to show you just how much she quotes the documentary without telling you, while reusing greased up footage from it, but it's most of the video. There's just too much to show. I also wanted to go more into the ways making sloppy, poorly researched videos means the videos are full of obvious mistakes, but this video's looking kinda long, so I shouldn't. However, before I realized I shouldn't, I'd already made all of it. So, check out the new video on my hot new second channel. I have a second channel now. It's not a live stream channel I hastily rebranded. Check it out if you want to see me complain about Blair getting the Stanford prison experiment wrong, and also Silent Hill lore. Why would you want to watch that? I don't know. This is a horrible pitch. As a creator, my question is, why make 3 bad videos a week when you could make 1 half-decent video every 2 weeks? Or 1 pretty good video every year? Videos like this aren't made for the reasons normal people make videos, like to inform or entertain or for the joy of making something. They're made for the purpose of putting out more content.
Yep.
The phrase content mill refers to organizations which produce huge amounts of material very quickly, designed to...
Yep, and that's what I'm doing.
To get attention with no interest in quality. If you've ever seen an article in a search with a compelling title but which says...
Put 6 to 12 to, I'm sorry, yeah, I put between 8 and like 6. I put between 6 and 14 hours or sometimes 20, like 14 hours on YouTube every single day. And all it is my sessions. But there's no rule that says I can't do that. And I don't care if anybody ever pays me for it. It's my history. In 50 years, it'll be tens of thousands of videos. And I can go watch what I was doing on I've always dreamed of something like this. I can go watch, it's like my own personal diary. And I can go watch what I was doing in 2023. And it's 2036 now. And, oh, what was I like 13 years ago? Let's go see, you know. I actually kind of like that. I think it's a fucking sweet idea. So, yeah. And, but I also, that enables me to do what they're doing, which is put, 4 to 12 or 14 hours, every day on YouTube. And it's not always amazing content, but and it may not even vary that much, but it definitely is solid and it's entertaining. And sometimes it is really busy and good. And other times it's just me fishing and shit like that, because that's how the MMO lifestyle is. So, I don't know. I think it's a good vision. It'll never be this vehicle for ads like I think a lot of these people are. I don't think. And if it has any sponsors, it'll be interesting sponsors, because I don't know what I would take. I don't think there's many people. It'd have to be the products that I currently use. It'd have to be like Razer and HyperX and fucking Logitech and shit like that. I could see taking sponsorships from tech brands, but that's about the best I could do, I think. Maybe Bang energy drinks.
It only tells you the thing you wanted at the end, while showing you 7 million ads. You've had the content mill experience, my friend. Some of these are just a link to a video someone else made, but they got to show you ads. There's a ton of channels out there whose objective is to make as much stuff as possible, as fast and as easily as possible. We just watched Cinemassacre become one of these, making easier, lower effort, worse videos, and for the ones that were supposed to be good, outsourcing the editing to a guy they underpaid so badly he later quit, and the writing to a guy who turned out to be stealing shit. The quality suffers, yeah, but if you don't care about quality, you save yourself a lot of time and effort. The people who are in this for the money are engaged in a constant race to the bottom to find the easiest possible content to make and still get paid for it. If you're a nerd, and Look at you. You've been recommended a YouTube short where a
Look
robot
at you.
explains what happens in a comic.
The sad story of Rocket Raccoon, the drunk who knew Batman's identity after Homelander lost his mind.
These float to the top because there's catchy names and there's hundreds of them. So they get recommended to everyone even though nobody likes them. My favorite insane content farm stuff is when an AI explains the plot of a movie to you, but the title is "A Woman Wakes Up Covered in Bees" or something.
Welcome back to Movie Recaps. Today I will show you a drama, fantasy film from 2018, titled Be With You. Spoilers ahead.
These are so perplexing, they wrap back around to being performance art. He has only 3 organs left, but the scientists turn him into a super soldier. It's RoboCop! An AI voice explains the plot of RoboCop to you. Incredible! But if something becomes successful, even if it's something this weird, people are going to try and do the same thing, especially if it's easy.
Yeah, why not? They're like, okay, if I produce 10 channels a day, 10 channels worth of content a day with my AI, and I produce like 200 videos every single day, and eventually I just like kind of farm hits, and then I turn around and I'm making like 30 grand in ad revenue every year without even like doing anything at all. That's how I farmed YouTube for 30 grand, and I just couldn't ever see being that kind of loser. Or I'm sorry, I couldn't see spending my time doing that.
Like an AI recapping.
It's just no thanks.
The opening scene features a guy who finds himself confined within a large cube. The opening sequence introduces a prologue. After this, the chaos caused by the Egyptians is depicted.
Today, I'm going to explain a film based on the real-life story of the youngest warrior of World War II called Soldier Boy.
Today I'm going to explain the horror zombie film titled More Bodies.
And walked over to the man. When the man saw it, he was still cursing at his wife.
The Dog King has gathered hundreds of stray dogs. He is leading his entire army to attack the city.
Hi, Jake Recaps here. Today I am going to explain a movie called Alldayerrydaybaby.
So you can see how content mill shit dovetails very nicely with ripping people off, if not outright plagiarism.
Yep.
And right in the middle of this ecosystem are reaction videos, where people just upload themselves reacting to other people's videos. The money almost makes itself. Reaction videos are a key piece of the Illuminati puzzle here, because that was Blair's previous content mill. A few years back, reacting to Reddit posts was a popular format, and it was easy to make, so Hacks jumped on it. She used to make videos reacting to popular Reddit posts, and she'd try to add to the jokes, and, not manage it.
After all, if I can't trust the President of the United States, who can I trust? And that's, Tricky Dick. Very cool man, the Watergate scandal man himself.
Extremely boringly reading out Reddit posts wasn't good content, but it was content. She saw moderate success doing this for a few years, briefly forming a communal channel where she and several friends reacted to Reddit posts together called Sad Milk, a channel which has since been completely obliterated, and she's currently sending cease and desists to the other members to stop them talking about why. So that's fun, but this kind of explains a lot. In a way, Blair has always just been reading other people's stuff at you. She spent half a decade trying to become a popular YouTuber by any means necessary.
Honestly, I feel like that's more honest than news anchors. What's wrong with that? I think you're a hater a little bit.
Before these, she used to do storytime videos back when they were really popular, which led to a notorious video where she talked about clogging a toilet by literally filling it with shit.
I didn't even see the hole, so I knew the poop wouldn't go.
When video essays started being a popular format, she pivoted again and started making what she makes now. None of this has ever been about actually making something she cares about. It's always been about making something popular. When these finally caused her to really take off as a creator, she basically immediately deleted all of her previous cringe attempts to cash in on other trends. Remember
it's
when
like evidence.
A million views disappearing from Philip's channel was a bit weird? Try 40 million.
Oh,
sounds like those videos aged like milk. Sad milk, that is. The Illuminati channel is a video essay content mill. She has a team of editors helping to put out videos every other day, and she doesn't need a writer. Wikipedia's got her covered, and if there happens to be a documentary on the topic,
and I'm doing the same sort of scammy bullshit, right? Play my games, 1, 2, 3 of them, like any other gamer. I do MMOs, which are the slowest, most boring gameplay that there ever is in the history of video gaming. It's just slow, boring gameplay that just chews on in the background, fishing and killing shit. Just fishing, killing shit, questing. And You know, and I change up the games a lot and I move around, but basically I just run 1 to 3 games. I put a video in the top right, and I've been doing this since day one too. I put a video in the top right and I play, like, you know, I play whatever's new and whatever's entertaining to me. I don't care. And now I've pretty much like even serialized it, and I've stopped changing anything. And now it's just basically always that format, and there's no just changing factors or anything. Oh, wait, why do I have 2 clients open? That's dumb. So am I done here now? I think. I don't seem to be getting any more skill up at all. 107. I think that's good enough to do any floating wreckage that I see, but I wouldn't mind getting it to like 125. I'm not getting the skill up that I need in this city very much. Yeah, this is kind of like a waste of time now. I'm going to go do the cooking I need so I can get these scrolls out of my inventory, and then I can leave Stormwind. What was I going to say? It's easy to attack them up there, but without regurgitated information, what even would you two be? I mean, you know, like, she's obviously found a career that worked for her. I don't see how it's any more negative than that stupid bullshit on CNN or whatever. Like, I don't see how it's any worse or better. Like, honestly. So I struggle a little bit. I think you got a bit of the haterade. A little bit of the haterade there. I wouldn't say she sits there and says, I'm original. You know, it's not like she tells you any differently.
You can just quote that 40 fucking times. The video happens overnight because she didn't have to do any work.
No,
There's a part in the vaccines video where she talks about all the documentaries she's watched as part of her research process. And I don't think she realizes she's telling on herself here.
And I've got to tell you that I've seen a lot of documentaries doing research for these deep dives. The Netflix Betting on Zero for Herbalife, The Dark Side of Chocolate for Nestle, documentary series on the Hikikomori, and all the Goop episodes on Netflix, Blackfish for SeaWorld, there's a lot.
This is just a confession. Referencing the big documentaries on a topic you're covering is fine.
Like the type
Quoting
I should
them or
watch my
using
coin
some
purse
footage
around.
from them makes a lot of
Something I
sense,
can help
I
you
think.
with?
But at a certain point, you're just repackaging other people's work and selling it off as your own. And speaking of selling, why would someone do this? Well, when I sat down to watch the Fire Festival video, I got served 2 advertisements before I could hit play, and then immediately got hit by a commercial for Blair's plushie.
Make sure to snag one before it's gone because these are not coming back once this runs out.
Then 11 minutes in, I got a message from today's sponsor, Mint Mobile, where I could get Squixteen Dingles off my Bext burger.
And we will begin to unravel what happened at the Fire Festival
Do I
right
look
after
like
this
I have
break.
the time
Make
or
sure
energy
you
to
go
coddle every tourist that wanders through my door?
That's
Tell me what you need and make it quick.
And then within
I sell
seconds
only
of that
the best
sponsorship
gear,
ending,
tested and true.
I got a
And
second
the prices are
sponsorship.
set.
She has
So if
2
you
right
want to
next to
haggle,
each
then
other.
go
Go to
find-
blueland.com/illuminor.
Go to blueland.com/MLM. That's 15% off your first order of any products of Blueland orders at blueland.com/MLM.
Now, I don't want to speculate how much money Blair made from this sloppy shit that was made in about a day, but I do know how much a video with that many views makes in ad revenue, and I know what the overhead is on those plushies, and I've been offered similar sponsorships. So I'm pretty comfortable in saying she made a fuck ton of money from stealing someone else's documentary. It turns out it's the same twist it always is. Why did this stupid shit happen? Oh, it's money! This is a really good racket. I'm almost jealous. With a small team of editors,
I'm
you can
jealous.
knock one of these out every few days. And she does. I mean, she doesn't need a writer. Now, maybe this technically isn't plagiarism. Maybe you give them a pass because having a
She
link
writes.
somewhere in a description makes it okay to have done this.
It's unfair.
But I think we can all agree that even if it isn't plagiarism, it is, at the very least, shit. When we're talking about creative works, questions like this aren't really about rigid definitions. It's about whether or not something passes the
Her
vibe
personality is
check,
part
as
of it.
adults pretending to be children might say.
And you're discounting that part of it. Her voice and her delivery is all part of it, and that stuff is worth money, and she earns it. You're a hater. Professional hater.
A lot of this is about how something feels. Case in point, when Blair accused someone else of stealing from her. Plot twist, baby! Party time. The Legal Eagle debacle. This is Devin Stone, law YouTuber and actual lawyer whose channel name is Legal Eagle. He's pictured here interviewing me in my pajamas.
I would not piss off.
I used this clip so I could savor it for a second. On April 20th of this year, Blair accused one of Devin's editors of taking her video's style. They were trying to replicate her videos. Her evidence? One of his editors emailed asking how her editors achieved a specific effect in an old video.
Oh, yeah.
And then later asked on Discord if he could ask them there. I know, right? And if that's not enough, she posted some comparison shots showing they both have used torn paper effects when showing quotes, and they both highlight text when they show documents.
Legal Eagle is no longer the one good lib.
It's cut and dry, really. There's just one small question left, and that is, what the hell are you talking about? This is one of the most common things you see in all videos. No one owns the concept of highlighting text. Tons of people use torn paper in their visuals when they're quoting books or newspapers. It's basic skeuomorphism, when the thing looks like the thing that it is. I do the same thing when I'm trying to look professional. Legal Eagle has used these visuals for years, before Illuminati has used them even. Who's ripping off who again? But in any case, it's normal for editors to ask each other how they do things. That's how information spreads. You know those transitions that I do occasionally and Philip did literally all the time? I found out how to do those by asking another YouTuber named BobVids how he made his transitions so smooth in his videos in like 2016, and he told me what plugin he used. Almost everyone finds out about it by asking someone else whose videos they like how they did that thing. This is a communal craft where people learn and share things. That's why there's 12 million tutorials for how to do a chromatic aberration effect without having to pay for one of the professional ones. Editing is for the people. More like comradic Nah. The accusation wasn't just false. It illuminates, how Blair sees the world. She doesn't really understand the concept of sharing amongst creatives because she's never actually created anything. Ripping people off is her entire business model, so she assumes that's how the rest of the industry works. Just people competing to exploit each other's ideas.
And like, so you could say a lot of the value of my videos on YouTube, not my stream, my videos on YouTube, is actually lost because it's someone else's work in the top right corner of my screen all the time. And so if I do anything entertaining, if I'm entertaining at all, it's because of their work, right? But I also play the games all day. Unless I'm eating or something, I am like playing the games all day, providing the MMO content all the time in the background. And I do feel like I use other people's work in my work a lot. But I don't do one of the reasons I do this is it's what they want. I think they wish their stuff to be exposed on YouTube, and that is what I'm doing.
To this sort of person, the fundamental act of asking questions and talking shop become devious tricks to get you to give away your
And, you know, if they were to say, stop doing that, I would. And I would just keep playing the video games on my stream all day, and I would turn on the video game music only. If anybody had an issue with it. But I mean, these videos are on YouTube and they're free, and I think they're there to be watched. I mean, I think, you know.
About how
it doesn't matter if I show them or YouTube shows them. They're meant to be shared.
Highlight text. Basically, this is a completely ridiculous accusation. This particular thing really annoyed me, not just as a video editor, but because I had a personal history with her videos. Here was someone whose career is built on remaking other people's hard work 3 times a week, getting extremely aggressive that someone asked someone else how they did something. I'd found the Brian Deere stuff years ago and kept it to myself because I know this might be hard to believe. I don't like randomly starting fights with strangers, but since Blair seems okay with doing that, and it was on my mind anyway since I was already working on this video, I posted a video with some examples of her ripping off Deer in a quote tweet. A lot of the reactions to my tweets seemed to show that this made people rethink how they felt about the work of someone they previously respected. And this, for me, confirms my hypothesis that whatever you call this, There's something wrong about it. Realizing how heavily regurgitated someone's work is changes how it feels
Do I
to
look
watch.
like I have the
Even if
time
you
or
like
energy
something
to
about it,
coddle every
now in the back
tourist
of your
that
mind
wanders
you're
through my-
wondering if it's them you like and not the person they got it from. Plagiarism stains a person's work and makes it tough to appreciate even the original parts, because you'll never really know for sure again if they're original. And being the one getting ripped off feels pretty bad too, which I'm sure Blair understands. That's why she posted all of these tweets. Now imagine how those journalists and documentarians might feel. Imagine spending your life doing painstaking research, actual investigation, going out there.
Actual investigation, like going and talking to the sources, flying out on a plane, booking them, showing up when you say you're gonna show up, buying them lunch or whatever to get them to talk, listening to them talk, recording it, editing it, moving it to the fucking documentary, quoting them, showing the video of them talking and all this stuff, giving them the banner and the acknowledgement and quoting them and all this stuff. And and then somebody like just comes along and regurgitates that. I get that sucks, but also I think that's what YouTube is a bunch of regurgitation.
Viewing people and physically finding things, not just Googling it and copying what's already there. And then imagine someone reading your words out loud in between sponsorships for dish soap, getting half of the words wrong, and not even making it clear how heavily she's relying on you to make her video. Brian Deere has had a lot of trouble with plagiarism. During the scare, Deere got sued and went to court to defend his findings. He could have lost his home in the fight to get the truth heard. So when people steal his work without crediting him properly, it's messed up. Some entire documentaries have come out which don't credit him. Channel 4 did another documentary about Wakefield recently, and they don't acknowledge that it was his work they were using. They pretend Channel 4 itself made those discoveries. They try really hard to cut Deere out of the story, and it doesn't even work. Articles he wrote and his book keep popping up in the background. Deere has been battling to have his work properly recognized for years, while other people pretend they discovered it. Deere actually put it best himself when he saw my tweet and replied to it. Sorry to drag you into this, Brian. While copying and pasting text from other people's stuff is a kind of plagiarism, it's not the only kind, and focusing on that as the only way would be a mistake that falls short of understanding the problem. Even when Blair isn't just reading other people's words, she's still gutting other people's work and selling it, and I hope I've explored that properly. I wish the story ended there so we could move on already. I had other examples I wanted to get to, I swear. But on the 28th of April, Blair released a video entitled Illuminati Exposed, which contains an apology to Legal Eagle, a response to Hubbaboma Guy's plagiarism claims, and I guess a response to the 5 other things she's currently being accused of. She seems great, and in the section intended for me, she responded to my tweet. So in the interest of fairness, let's see what she has to say.
Before I get into the accusation itself, I want to address the topic of plagiarism. And that word has been tossed around a ton, and it's not something to be taken lightly. And I just want to take a minute to define this word.
She begins by citing the many dictionary definitions of plagiarism, which is very funny.
On screen are definitions for the word plagiarism as defined by Merriam-Webster, Dictionary.com, and the University of Oxford.
But then, she disregards all of them anyway and invents her own special definition with a loophole in it.
I'm showing multiple sources defining plagiarism, but the overall definition is going to boil down to this. Plagiarism is to take someone else's idea as their own, or to
I would be
not
glad
credit
to teach
the
you
source.
anything that would
The
aid
actual
your journey.
definition, you know, the thing that is wrong, passing off other people's work or ideas as your own, has had this new thing grafted onto it to do with crediting of sources. The other definitions do bring up not crediting people as part of it, but Blair has made it central to her definition. Remember what I said about plausible deniability?
Yeah.
This is Blair trying to cash that in. She objectively has passed off the work.
Okay, guys, unfortunately, I am fading, and I must go to bed. I don't want to, but I'm going to stop this session at 13 hours and 20 minutes. I was trying to make it to 14, but I didn't make it. So thank you for hanging out with me today, and I hope you have a wonderful evening and enjoy your various different games and everything. I do see some people in here, and thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow for more sweet video game action. Just a reminder, you are watching skycat.live. I'm an affiliate of Twitch, and you can sub to me there, or if you wish to support me, or you can come to skycat.live, the website, and click on the cast space to donate. This series of videos that I recorded today are 13 hours and some 20-odd minutes. Will be posted to YouTube tonight and be on the site tomorrow. And you can see the same session all over again if you wish. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening and sleep well. Take care. Bye. Love you.